types of standard questions that you ask, when you're doing these online webinars. And I certainly thank the organizers of this event. Organizing an online webinar is not an easy task, especially at this time and age. So I thank the organizers for having me over. So today I'm sharing something that we've been humbly working on for the past 9 months. And this is related to the development of smart cities. So we utilized new technologies in geographic information systems. We've partnered with multiple institutions and companies such as Supermap in developing the platforms that we're developing for the city of Iloilo. So let me first make a short introduction about who we are. The institution that I come from. I came from the University of the Philippines, Department of Geodetic Engineering. So we are one of the oldest, if not the oldest, institution that offers the bachelor's degree in geodetic engineering, not just in the country, but also in Asia. We started in 1937, and we're not just offering academic degrees, but we're also doing researches and extension works towards our local government units. The research and extension works of the University of the Philippines Department of Geodetic Engineering comes through the Training Center for Applied Geodesy and Photogrammetry, which was established in 1964. Our large network of local government institutions and government agency partners help us become much more effective in terms of addressing the problems, the current problems that they have, not just in governance, but in environmental issues and all those stuff. So for this presentation, I'll be presenting Project Lungsod. So Project Lungsod is a Filipino word for city. Project Lungsod, formally named as a link-up of geomatics and social science research for the development of smarter cities, is under a bigger research program by the Department of Science and Technology called the Convergence of Philippine Technologies for Smarter City Development. There are a lot of debate on which is easier, developing a new smart city from scratch or redeveloping an old city into a smarter city. And these are the things that we look at in this study. So the implementing agency is the UP Training Center for Applied Geodesy and Photogrammetry, and we've chosen Iloilo City as our study area for this project. Iloilo City is a prime pilot area for innovative solutions, as exhibited in the Innovate Iloilo initiative by the Department of Science and Technology, Region 6, the region where Iloilo City is located in. It has a good track record of private and public collaboration, which is currently the trend towards a more sustainable development. The more recent challenge of establishing a safer, more connected new normal comes with governance challenges that opens opportunities for scientific geospatial solutions provided by the DOST. Certainly the pandemic that we have right now made things very difficult for us in the conduct of this research. But these challenges, together with the creative minds of the young people that we have under the project, poses an exciting new opportunities for new technologies, modern technologies to come in and provide exciting new solutions for the city. The rapid innovation and mainstreaming of information and communications technology over the past decade ushered in the demand for ICT-based urban ecosystems. Termed as smart cities, these urban ecosystems are increasingly being pushed in developing countries as a driver for accelerated development. Smart cities is now like a buzz phrase with all the technology development that we have. The long-term rationale can be summarized in 4 points. Smart cities are drivers of accelerated development. Successful smart cities are multidisciplinary and multi-stakeholder, meaning we're not just talking about relationships that are inter, but also intra-relationships. Cohesive smart cities, as we've seen in the previous studies that we've read, they cannot be removed from the development of digital twins, which is a term that is evolving through time. And sustainable smart cities also require strong societal comprehension, awareness, and connection. Though smart cities the term smart city, they prospect and elicit moods of excitement and optimism. Not all initiatives for smart cities are successful. There are some unsuccessful initiatives for smart cities, and we looked at those scenarios and we studied them to see which are the pitfalls or the things that we needed to avoid in developing our own smart city. Pragmatic research accepts the possibility of failure and addresses the causative factors based on lessons learned from the past and elsewhere. In this study, a successful smart city is both an intelligent city and a creative city. When we talk about approaches in smart city development, it is still evolving. As more case studies come in, as more technologies are being developed, there's always this top-down approach wherein you have a visionary leader that provides the structure for the development of smart cities, and then you have the grassroots approach in which you are much more sensitive to the needs of the citizenry in order for you to create something that can be sustained for a long time. Now, for this project, we believe that a successful smart city is a compromise of the two approaches. You cannot isolate one approach and claim it as the only way for you to solve a smart city problem. Now, certainly there are some instances wherein just one solution it would be enough for you to usher in the development. But generally, when we talk about developing smart cities from old cities, which we have a lot in the Philippines, it requires a compromised approach between a top-down method and a grassroots method. Now, the literature presents a lack of consensus on the formal definition of a smart city. Characterization can be grouped into 6 distinct components. You've got smart economy, which ushers in entrepreneurship, innovation, productivity, competitiveness. There's the smart people or the smart citizenry, which brings information, creativity, inclusivity, empowerment, and participation. The quality of life is also being addressed as. So we have smart living as well. Safety, security, for example, or risk management, which I'm sure we're going to hear more in the next few talks. You've got smart environment, which is something of interest nowadays in balancing out development and conservation. You've got green energy, sustainability, and resilience. You also have smart mobility, where intelligent transport systems, multimodal interoperability, and efficiency comes in. And of course, the smart governance, which is something that our country has been clamoring for the past few years. You've got modernization of government, e-governance, for example, open data, transparency, accountability, and evidence-based decision-making for better delivery of services. Now, technologies such as those shown on your screens are tools to developing smart cities. But we believe that to develop an accessible and a responsible smart city, it has to go beyond that. DOST has a framework for this development. We can see that without the support and the leadership of the local government unit. So in the Philippines, when we say a local government unit, we're talking about the administrators of the city and the elected officials of a city. It involves the hierarchy or the structure of governance under the mayors or barangay captains, as we call it, or village chiefs. That's the closest equivalent to barangay captains. Now, without the leadership of your governors or the local government units and the stakeholders, which in this case we define as the private individuals or the private companies or the citizens that make use of these smart city technologies, if these two elements don't work together, a smart city development in the Philippines won't fly off. And I don't think it will fly off anywhere. And one of the issues that we've been facing, and I believe that this is not unique in the Philippines, is a very dynamic political situation, or a very, very dynamic master plan, so to speak, wherein priorities have changed depending on who's in charge. Now, in order to address that, the Department of Science and Technology in our country worked with the Department of Interior and the Department of Information and Communications Technology to come up with a strategy to make these developments much more sustainable. They try to include or incorporate the development of laws and regulations and policies in the development of these researches and studies, to make this development much more penetrative to the administration or the processes that we have in the local government. So what does this mean? If these are imposed as a law, nobody can change that easily in the country. At least that's the hope for these things. So these three elements are needed to ensure sustainability, and they are both protective and enabling for citizens who doesn't have access to smart city technologies. For this project, we have identified 5 elements somehow ensures the success of a smart city development. There has to be collaboration. We cannot do this alone. It is very proud of us to claim that the academe can solve everybody's problems. Certainly, there are some expertise that are not in the academe that certainly we need for ensuring that these things will fly off. You also have transferability. We need to transfer the expertise that we have to the people that will actually maintain the platform and use the platform for a long time. Now, this is a challenge given the time frame that we have, and this is something that we are approaching in a very careful way. You also have integration of multiple disciplines, multiple outputs from these disciplines. You have openness, which is something that we're advocating, especially in terms of data. There has to be accessibility for data. And we also need to have a shared vision or a human-centric vision, meaning that these solutions that we have should address what is really needed by the citizenry. Why develop smart cities? At least in the Philippines, we believe that urbanization is already an unending phenomenon. There are some elements or characteristics to urbanization in the Philippines that I think are common or similar to the development of cities or urbanization in other countries as well. In our country, overdevelopment is a big issue. When we say overdevelopment, sometimes we think that it's a good thing because you're already developing way past the norm. But when we talk about overdevelopment, we're talking about cramming a lot of people in a very small area in the country. And it's not sustainable in the long run. You extract resources, you use resources, you spend a lot of time in traffic, for example, and this requires solutions that advanced GIS and modern geospatial technologies can provide. The good thing is there's already a declining cost to these technologies, and they've become more accessible, not just to rich countries, but also to countries that are developing, such as us. There are barriers, however, and challenges in developing our smart cities. One of the big problems is a siloed piecemeal implementation. One city is developing a smart city, another city is developing its own. So meaning there are no synchronization. That's one problem that we've faced before. Fortunately, the national government has already laid out frameworks for these local government initiatives to talk and work together. There's also the funding problem, which declining costs in technologies can also help in. There's also a lack of ICT know-how. With the big population that the Philippines has, not everybody knows how to, not even knows what smart city means. There's a need to educate, there's a need to establish foundational knowledge for us to be able to saturate our society. Lack of integrated services, lack of citizen engagement, and lack of smart city visionaries are also some of the barriers that we've faced. Now, for this project and for any smart city project, I believe we need to collaborate. We cannot survive in a silo, as mentioned earlier. A research project such as Project Lungsod, we won't survive isolated. And this is what we've been doing the past few months. As I mentioned earlier, this pandemic is making things difficult for us, but because of new technologies such as the online platform that we're using, we are able to communicate and collaborate and train our stakeholders remotely. So we've spoken with the LGU, we've spoken with the regional science and technology department. We've created opportunities for everyone to talk together and flesh out plans for the city. We've pitched ideas for new solutions. When we're pitching ideas, when we think of ideas, not everything is successful. We aim for a batting average, so to speak. But then again, if you stop thinking about new ideas or creative ideas just because of the fear of rejection, then might as well not get into research, right? We've also met with local innovators as well. There are a lot of platforms being developed outside of our research project, and we wanted to help them out. Now, this culture of collaboration and helping each other out certainly helps the project in achieving its goals. We've also met with other funded research projects of the Department of Science and Technology. In this case, there's a research project that develops sensors for thunderstorms, and we're trying to integrate the information that they produce from their sensors to our system. We've also met with a project that develops sensors for air quality. The interesting thing is when we talk about air quality mapping in the Philippines, is most, if not all, they are in 2 dimensions. And this is the first time that we're kind of exploring these things in 3 dimensions. And we also had project updates with all stakeholders involved. So we're participating in these discussions, in these conversations, and we try to educate as much as we can and spread out the information that, smart cities, when we talk about smart cities, it's not just high technology. It's not just for rich people or rich countries, but certainly we can develop our own with a limited budget that we have. Now, for this project, technology-wise, part of Project Lungsod is the development of 2 prototypes for Iloilo City. The central nervous system of the Iloilo Command Center, which is being built in Mandurriao. There are other satellite eye care centers, as they call it, in Iloilo. We develop a city management software interface integrating information from previous research projects that were funded by the government and current research projects that were funded by the government, and of course other sources that were identified by the local government units. We also develop a City Connect application which connects citizens with a mobile citizen application capable of geo-visualizing relevant city information, collecting human mobility data, and sending feedback from users. So the platforms that we're developing on the technology side of the project are envisioned to be modular and scalable, meaning we can start small and then we can add more as time goes on. This will make training easier for us because we can start with something simple. One of the things in the academe that we're always preaching to our students is if you look at a problem, at a complex problem, you don't solve the problem immediately as it is. Chances are you're going to get overwhelmed, especially with the level of expertise that we have. What you do is you break down that problem into simpler problems and start with a simple problem. And these solutions will lead up to the bigger solution that that complex problem requires. We use technology as means, but not as the all-end mean to provide solutions to these issues. We focus on the delivery of services to make them more efficient. We also look at business solutions. Since this is the priority of the city, local economy, we focus on this as well. And as a personal principle, we try to provide ways for the citizen to provide feedback to the local government. So we're not just talking about feedback that will be unaddressed, but we're talking about meaningful feedback. that the city can address, not just for the long term, but also for the short term as well. So the first platform that I'd like to talk about is the City Command platform. Geospatial information is the backbone of every smart city development. Smart city applications containing public and geosimulated city information layers can aid in management and the participative formulation of development strategies, for example, and possible schemas in various sectors in infrastructure development, among others. This is critical in connecting the smart local government unit to its citizenry. Now, this system is rooted on a digital twin, as we say, produced by an integration of multiple geospatial techniques. Now, what is a digital twin? Let me play this video.
Operator, a change in my mission is causing damage to my HP turbine rotor.
Okay, Twin, help me understand the problem. What's your operating profile?
In past 6 months, my number of cold starts is 4, my number of warm starts is 8, my number of hot starts is 39. The number of start-stop cycles has increased by 27.5%.
Okay. Twin, tell me about your rotor damage.
My damage rate has increased by 4.0 times over last 6 months. If this continues, I would lose 69.9% of my useful life.
Twin, give me options for mitigating that rotor damage.
Based on weather forecasts, historical data, fuel cost, electricity pricing in my present condition, I have 2 options for you to optimize operations. Option 1 is to manually slow down my startup ramp rate so that you can reduce the wear on my rotor. Option 2 is to download the OpFlex app and apply stress controls to minimize wear and reduce fuel consumption too.
Twin, give me the factors you use to calculate option 2.
I used my past 15 years of historical data, fleet learning from 125 other D11 steam turbines like me, and 58,965 simulation runs to get this recommendation. I'm 95% confident of my assumptions.
Twin, I need a financial perspective. Tell me about the numbers.
The numbers look good. We can reduce stress by 25%, which brings the damage rate back to normal range. Startup fuel cost will go down by 40% and startup time will be cut by 50%. You will also avoid $12 million by preventing an unplanned outage.
Twin, okay, I select option 2. Let's do it.
I'm initiating option 2, which is Flex Start. Thank you.
All right. I hope you've heard the audio for that video properly. So this is kind of a technology or a term that's been evolving in the development of smart cities. Currently, when we talk about digital twins, we talk about virtual or digital copies of physical objects or physical environments in the smart city discipline. When we talk about digital twin as applied in urban development, we talk about virtual or digital copies. We talk about a connection to real and virtual world, by collecting historical data from records. And if you are talking about an old city, such as Iloilo City, you're not just dealing with data sets that are in Excel or in spreadsheets. You're talking about data sets that are in paper sometimes. And you need this historical data plugged in the system as well. Now, more than a blueprint, more than a schematic, not just a 3D model. When we talk about digital twins, we're not just talking about eye candies. We're talking about data underneath and how are we going to utilize the data underneath to make meaningful analysis. So what's the purpose of a digital twin? Digital twins are built through survey-based reconstruction and modeling through automated and manual techniques. It involves 2 major processes, actually, geometry acquisition and information representation. Digital twins are vital components to administration's modern local data infrastructure for planning and development, for which city services and information such as transportation, logistics, energy, climate, air quality, fire propagation, for example, health and public safety, These studies are critically linked. Digital twin applications, these are not new, actually. We have applications. If you look at China, they have a lot of applications of digital twins as well. You've got countries such as Netherlands, for example, or the Russian cadastre. Rotterdam has their own digital twin. You've got 3D models of wind flows in Australia, in New York, and in other cities as well. Preference on sensor-aided automated methods were always prioritized over manual data entry and measurement for efficiency purposes. The complexity and the quantity of data needed to represent large urban areas that make fully automatic techniques highly desirable. Varying levels of utilization circle around photogrammetry, active sensors, and hybrid sensor systems. This acquired geospatial information is housed in a geodatabase. Now, the geodatabase is connected to the users via a geoportal or some other method of interface. Geoportals, as we call it in the Philippines, are environments, either online or offline, that serve as a bridge to the collection of data resources, tools, applications, metadata records, and other geographic information. Integrating GIS as a tool for analysis and decision support and as a platform for visualization, the usage of WebGIS defined as a tool to design, implement, generate, and deliver various geospatial data and GIS functionalities and services over the World Wide Web to facilitate better connection between the government and its citizens is also recognized in this project. Now, these SDI programs, when implemented, play a crucial role in creating electronic governance maturity, or eGov maturity, as we call it. Now, this slide shows the current build that we have for the City Command platform. We've used technologies that were provided by Supermap and other open source technologies as well to create this build that is shown on your left side of the screen. We codenamed it the Marzan prototype in honor of one of the former TCAGP directors, Dr. Jean Marzan. We used the mock-up on the right as an inspiration for this build. When we say digital twin, again, we're not just talking about geovisualization, but also the data and the models inside. This will enable more mature applications in real-time object detection and deeper semantics. With this effort, thorough assessment on the overall present situation of Iloilo City in various sectors such as transportation and urban mobility, citizen interaction, administration, urban security, and other city sectors will be performed. Now, this can be done using numerous sensing techniques to collaborate with the citizens, government, local businesses, and other stakeholders. These techniques can also be used to monitor and acquire data on the infrastructure and developments of the city. Now, when we are gathering data, we make sure that data gathering will be done in a most responsible and ethical way. And this is where our social scientists come in to make sure that we are compliant to the data privacy laws and regulations of the Philippines and the international norm. All of this will be possible through a smart and secure data hub that we're building with the LGU. So we developed it, we incorporated it in a geodatabase. So what is a geodatabase? It is a type of database that mainly handles spatial data. It can be vector data or raster data, data that involves information on buildings or the environment at a particular snapshot of time. We have primary data or secondary data being inputted in the geodatabase, which brings about new problems and issues, technical problems such as standardization and making sure that the quality of data is sufficient for integration or integrating in other instances. These databases that we have, of course, contains data. And one of the things that we're spending a lot of time of is quality control of these data sets. How can we make sure that these data sets are following some level of standard to make sure that these data can be interusable with each other? What's the use for this project? A geodatabase is used for data storage and organization. As of now, Iloilo City doesn't have its own geodatabase, and we're helping them out build this smart data hub that we proposed for them, and we're hoping that this development will be a prototype for the other cities to follow in. The geodatabase is also used for off-site access to data, meaning you don't need to go to the city hall or the data center of the city just to get the information that you need. You can get information online. These data sets come from numerous sources. Some of them come from sensors that are provided by the city and other sources as well. These data are used for simulation and analysis. And the results of this analysis and the data sets that we have should be accessible by the citizens through a citizen application. Now, security is one thing that we're also looking at. Certainly not all information are for public consumption, but these are some things or situations that we're looking at, not just from a legal point of view, but also from an ethical point of view. And these are all based on the digital twin that we are building for the city. So how will this be implemented in Iloilo? We gather data, we standardize it, we normalize it, we store them temporarily in the university, and we will hand them over to the city after the project. We also create a schema for the geodatabase to make sure that it will be sustainable in the long run. One part of Project Lungsod, other than City Command, is City Connect, or the Connect application, the mobile application that we're developing for the citizens. The Philippines is called the social media capital of the world. We use mobile phones a lot for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or there's other social media apps, Reddit, for example. The benefits of developing such applications for the administrators are as follows. They encourage participation, they improve performance, they introduce new business opportunities that might not be known to the citizenry at that time. To the citizens, of course, they can be informed immediately of the current state of their city. They can be actively involved, participating in policy discussions, and so on. They can voice out their concerns to the city, and they can certainly receive a faster delivery of services. We've seen that the development of these types of platforms also increases the accountability of the city officials to the constituents. This is not something that is new for the country. There are some cities within the Philippines that develop their own citizen applications as well. You have Quezon City, you have Makati, and you have Kawayan City in the northern parts of the country. For Iloilo, we developed the Connect application. It's just a simple application containing numerous modules that can act as social sensors and as modes or as nodes for analytics. We have 8 modules under development for the citizen app. We are developing this together with our social scientists to make sure that we are compliant with the ethical principles of data management and use. These modules that are shown are either developed in-house or integrated, such as the Baka platform, as mentioned earlier, which translates to buy local in the Hiligaynon language. They are an external group of innovators, so they did not come from our group, but we spoke with them and we collaborated with them, and they're developing their own application as well. So this is like the commercial platform of the project. We are developing modules that will enable action on both rapid and long term from the local government unit. This is in line with the city's vision, and they are building the command center. Now, to summarize and end this presentation, please allow me to share this video with you.
In the world of endless possibilities, imagine telling stories without having to go outside the city. Now imagine bringing business to the palm of your hand. Imagine building spaces amidst comfort and security. project. We share your vision of making Iloilo City a premier smart city, not only in the region, but also in the entire country and beyond. We add value to Iloilo City's Eye Care Center and support the revitalization of local economy by providing geo-ICT solutions for businesses, tourism, governance, and social services. This is Project Lungsod, and you can be part of the change. Connect with culture, connect with nature, connect with business, connect with safety, connect with fun, connect with us. Lungsod, change the way we look at cities.
Thank you very much for having me.